Tech Talks Education, welcome back. And let us continue with ionic chemistry and qualitative analysis. We have just seen preliminary examination of a substance and a test. That is when you have been provided a substance which is under test, which is called an unknown substance. What you need to first take note of, that is the color, the texture, the smell, and then the deliquescent property or nature of that substance. So we said that one gives you just a small light on what that substance could be made up of in terms of ionic composition. So we said that qualitative analysis deals with the determination of ions, that is cations and anions, in some unknown substance provided using heat and using reagents. So in this session we are going to look at the use of heat in this case for determining the ions present. So let us look at action of heat on substances under test. The action of heat on substances under test. So in this case we are going to see how to prepare for heating, how to do the heating, and then the expected observations and deductions. In fact, observations that we expect to make during heating. And then we shall look at, or we shall have an in-depth look at those observations. In case you make one, then what should be your deduction in this case? So let us try to see the test instruction, or how we should do it in this case. We need to heat a spatula handful of a substance under test in a dry, clean glass test tube with pieces of moist blue and red litmus papers mounted at the mouth of the test tube and while holding a clean glass rod dipped in lime water. Take the spelling, take note of the spelling. Lime water is one word. Dipped in lime water at the mouth of the test tube. So I believe we are going to understand this one here, though theoretically, but we shall be able to understand it, how to do it in this case. We are supposed to heat a spatula handful of a substance under test. We need to use a dry clean glass test tube, and it must be a spatula and full. So if I have my test tube, let me use a diagrammatic illustration here. If this is my test tube, and I need to use a spatula, that's the small spoon we use in the laboratory, and scoop a spatula handful of the substance under test and place it here in my test tube. Don't use a lot of the substance under test, because if you use a lot, one, you'll be squandering the whole of that substance and you'll be provided just a small definite quantity, say 2 grams only of the substance under test. So if you use the whole of it and yet you are supposed to use the same substance for other tests, say using the reagents right now, that means you'll have nothing remaining. And then two, it will take you a very long time to heat the substance and then make sure that you heat and make all the possible observations. So sometimes the heat may not be enough to make sure that the whole of that substance decomposes, if it decomposes and produces the substances or the products that you need. So you may not heat and you get or realize enough heat to make that happen. Therefore, don't use too much of the substance under test. Next is, you must have a piece of moist litmus paper, moist blue litmus paper and moist red litmus paper mounted here, blue and red. A blue litmus paper mounted here, at the mouth of the test tube, and also a red litmus paper which has been moistened also, mounted here at the mouth of the test tube. So a piece of litmus paper which is blue in color should be mounted here. Another one which is red should be mounted here. But remember that this litmus paper, the litmus papers had been wetted or moistened with water first. Then you place here. So these litmus papers will help to test for the pH of the gas that may be produced, whether it is acidic or it is alkaline. And then two, you should also be having a piece of litmus paper here. A piece of glass rod here should be mounted at the mouth of the test tube, like this. So this litmus paper, this glass rod here should be dipped in lime water. Here, the whole of this part should be having lime water. And as you know, the lime water will be able to test for the presence of carbon dioxide, if carbon dioxide gas is produced. So in this case, in case carbon dioxide is produced, then a milky substance or some white precipitate will be formed on this glass rod, and it will become white at exactly this point here. It will not look transparent, but it will look white in color. So if it looks white in color, it means that carbon dioxide gas was produced here. So you need to prepare adequately. One, your litmus paper, we say that the test tube should be clean, it should be dry, should be completely cleaned, and should also be dry. Then you deliver using a spatula, just one spatula handful of the substance under test. Then you also need to place a piece of moist blue litmus paper here, another piece of moist red litmus paper here, to be able to detect the pH of any gas that may be produced. And you should be having a glass rod which has been dipped in lime water. You place it here. That one is to test for carbon dioxide gas. Make sure that the whole of the stem of your test tube is just transparent, so that in case any observation is to be made around here, it is very clear. So make sure that it is just transparent as you are seeing here, very clear. So when you are like this, you are ready to go. But again, when you are heating, firstly heat gently, and then you heat strongly until no further change. So when you're heating gently, of course you will not be heating directly on the flame. If the flame is here of your Bunsen burner or whichever heat source, you first heat it aside. It is almost like you keep on passing the test tube here. That is gentle heating. Then later on, after making some observations, after gentle heating, then you can now heat strongly until no further change. You heat directly on the flame and you heat it for some good time. So when you are heating, in this case, there are things that you should expect. And that's what we are going to look at right now. That is it, expectations during heating. We are going to heat the substance gently at first and then later on strongly until no further change. So let us look at expectations during heating. Most candidates simply go and heat without any motive. So you ask yourself, what could be the rationale of heating that substance? If you just go and you stand and you heat without minding about what is taking place here. So you must have some expectations during heating in this case. You don't just heat anyhow. So we are going to look at the expectations during heating. One, we expect to get water of crystallization, which normally forms on the cooler part or the cooler wall of the test tube. Expect to get water of crystallization. Two, expect to get a gas or gases, and these gases can be carbon dioxide, it can be ammonia, the gas can be nitrogen dioxide, the gas can be sulfur dioxide, and the gas can be sulfur trioxide. These are the observable gases in this case, and we can expect any one of them during heating. So we shall see how to identify these gases here. 3, we expect a smell if there. Not only that, we expect a decrepitating or what we call a crackling sound, and then we also expect to get a sublimate as well. We can now get also a residue. So we are going to look at all these ones here, what you expect during heating. Water of crystallization, a gas, and that gas may also be coupled with the smell produced during heating. Then we expect a crackling sound, that is some minor explosions due to decomposition or breakdown of that solid which you are heating. You expect to get a sublimate during heating. A sublimate is what forms when a solid is heated and it changes into a gas and later on cools rapidly and changes back to a solid. That one becomes what we call a sublimate. Then the solid that remains after heating, which is called a residue, is also expected. So we need to take note of any one of these. Please don't ignore. Don't go and heat just for granted. You go and heat and then you leave. It's not the case. So with the residue, you have to be very careful here. in that the residue has to be taken note of when it is still hot, and even after some time when it cools down, because some residues have got some particular colors when they are still hot, and on cooling down they also change in color to other colors. So we need to take note of them. Therefore, don't just heat and you go and you discard the residue. Firstly, let it cool down from a safe place. If you have a wooden test tube rack, it's fine. But if you have a plastic one, then you need to place the hot test tube somewhere where it will not be able to burn the plastic. So you don't place, in this case, your hot test tube on a plastic test tube rack. So we are going to have a look at all these ones here, one by one. And this is generally an overview of what we expect to do when we are preparing for heating, and then what we should do when heating, and these are the expectations that we have when we are heating. So we shall look at all these ones here, the possible observations that we can make during heating in qualitative analysis. So this is Tech Talks Education. Thank you for watching.